delivery and assurance and helping projects. On the Agile side, so I've been involved in Agile since the beginning, since the inception of Agile. So I achieved my first Scrum certification in 2005. So I was about the first batch in Australia to become Scrum Master. And I'm also part of the Agile signatories since 2004. So that's just a bit of overview about me. So over to you, Pete.
Yeah, thank you so much. My name is Peter Motoshaw, and I'm based in Australia. I'm Nigerian, I'm Australian, and also very, very passionate about Agile. I am currently an enterprise agile coach. I work in the industry. I also run a company called Pete Loring Consulting. We're an ATP, PMI authorized training partners, and then we do all sort of that, and also we are into consulting. So anything about Agile, anything about project management, well, I can give you some heads up around that. Thank you. Clement? You're mute, Clement.
Thanks. Sorry, thanks. Hi, everyone. My name is Clement Kitetu. I am Kenyan, based in Kenya, now currently at the coast. You can hear some roar of the ocean from out here. I knew Agile since 2001, and I have been one of the people resisting to go Agile until recently that I got my conversion and got into Agile, and I see Agile is the future of transformation. I currently work for Institute of Applied Project Management as the lead consultant and Agile coach, and not anything about project management, with over 20 years of experience in project management. Thank you. Looking forward.
Thank you, Clement. So the presentation that we are going to go through today is using the Magnificent 7 steps to create your first Agile ways of working. So I don't know how many of you have seen the Magnificent 7 movie. So it's a really good movie. So when you watch the movie, one of the summary that we can derive from it is about 7 people, how these people come from different, it's a Western movie, from different areas. So they did not know it themselves, and they work together as a team for a common purpose, and they managed to deliver the outcome that they were hired with. And what they say in the movie is that 7 people, they fought like 700 people. So what happens is that when people work together as a team, sharing a common purpose, so the synergy that is created between all of them is really amazing. So we had few meetings in the last few months. So we spoke about the Agile mindset, we spoke about discipline Agile, and then last session we went through all the Agile manifesto. So I hope everyone remembers the manifesto by now. So it consists of 4 values and 12 principles. So if we look at the manifesto, what is common in these 2 values in here and these 6 principles in there? It talks about a team. It talks about individual and the team. So what we can say is that by analyzing the Agile Manifesto, we can really see that half of it is about a team. So what the guys who created the manifesto realized is that having a highly performing team and having people working as a team is really, really important. So this is what will allow you to achieve your goal and hence provide business value to the client. So now, what does a team mean? A team is a group of people that are working together, that are empowered to be able to make decisions that are aligned to each other. They're all working towards a common goal, which is aligned. And also they share the same vision. They are highly organized, so self-organized, and their common values, this is what will drive their behavior towards achieving the goals that they need to do. So in this presentation, we will go through 7 steps. So now that you've gone through this session, you have acquired all the theory and knowledge that we spoke about. So the next step is that you have your first team. So how do you guys practically go about setting up that team to become a highly performing team? So it is a journey. It's not something that you achieve in day one. So if we look at what we call the Tuckman ladder here, so a team starts through forming, then it will get into the storming stage, norming, performing, and then it will adjourn. So it is a journey, but you as a servant leader, you will coach the team, you will guide the team and help them to achieve the performance that you will want to get in order to achieve a goal and business value. So now I will pass on to Pete to talk about the first step, which will be about establishing a project vision. So this is the first thing that we need to do. So when we start with a team, we need to build a piece of software, or we have a project that we need to deliver. It's very important to have everyone on the same page to really understand the vision, what exactly we are going to achieve. So why are we here together today? Over to you, Pete.
All right, thank you so much. So, very good introduction from you, Yannick. And I'm just going to go straight, and I can see Demari's hand up. We'll take questions at some point, but let me just quickly introduce the very first step: establishing a project vision. It is very important to have a clear vision of the project, or a program, or a transformation, no matter what it is. We want to know what success looks like at the end of the day. And of course, we need buy-in from everyone involved, all stakeholders, the teams, the sponsors, the customers, everyone involved. Because this will actually help us have a common understanding about what the big picture is. And of course, we want to keep our focus on it. We want to continually be inspired by doing this. And I just really want to really go on to the next slide, because it talks about those things that will definitely be needed, those characteristics of a project vision. Well, we want it to be quite unambiguous, right? People should not have difficulty in understanding it. We should remove every ambiguity. That's what makes a very good project vision. It has to be clear and concise. Clarity is quite important, and much more important is the harmony that it will have with the culture of the organization and those values, those things that are very important to a people, to a culture, to the organization, to the teams that are actually going on that journey of developing the very first project, agile project. Now, we like to be ambitious, definitely. But again, we have to be realistic as well. So you don't want to build something that looks like a white elephant project that is not really realistic. And this is very important. And of course, the vision should also be short enough for people to memorize, so to say, that if you want to talk about it, you can have an elevator pitch about what the project is all about. Can I go to the next slide to really talk about some of the things that we need? Now, we see that project vision is not all about the leaders alone. It can also be about the people that are there, that are all the stakeholders. So we need to focus definitely on value and speed. They are very important. Collaboration. At some point, the leaders will want to bring everybody or anyone that is interested on board so that we can have a multidisciplinary team. Continuous improvement is a very important thing. And of course, we live in a very dynamic world. Sometimes we might need to change and do some tweaking. That is also very important. Hop on to get a very good, solid rollout of the project vision. A safe environment is needed. Conversation is needed. And of course, we need to continue to talk all about it. And that will lead me straight to the second point, which is talking about development of the team values. Now, it is important for the team to share the same value, which are aligned with the value of agile. Now, we talk about a lot of things: trust, inclusion, openness, psychological safety, right? We talk about, how we can guide the decision of the team. We want to look at what differentiates the team from another one. We want to talk about the motivation of the teams. We want to talk about what drives them. And we want to talk about what they have in common. And of course, at the end of the day, this will lead us to get into a high performing team. Now, one of the slides that Yannick shared talks about the Tuckman model. The where we want to get to in a particular project is to get to that point where we are performing at the high point. Now, what are those things that we need to become the top team, to become a high performing team? These are the team values. These are the team values. And I want to really probably give a cool idea of how we can bring this out of a team. Now, if you look at the screen, we've got common goals, we've got conflict resolution, respect, focused, morale, productive, and so on and so forth. These are very good ideas. However, there are also ideas that we really, really want to avoid. And let me go to the next slide. Now, which means to create ground rules. Who are the people that are best to do that? Those are the people doing the work. We're trying to develop a social contract. We are developing something that will guide the ways of working of the team. And that is where the team charter comes in. This is a document that we put together, that will be put together by the team, that will clarify the direction that the team is going, that we establish the boundaries. Where do we start? Where do we end? How do we work together? This needs to be created collectively, collaboratively by the team. And the reason is that we want everyone to buy into that. Not only that, we want everyone to support each other within the team. And how do we do it in the real team settings? We want to be practical. So first of all, we want to take people down memory lane. We want to say, well, consider a time when you were part of a team that was really, really working very well. I want to really, even you on the call now, think about those days, those projects that you were on, and you really, really, if they give you an open ticket to go back and be part of that team, you want to go back. Now, think about those things that were present in those teams. What are the characteristics of this thing? Communication, for instance, respect, for instance, the fun that you have on the project, all those positive things. Think about them. Think about what really worked well. Talk about behaviors of the people that are there, how you are respected, how you feel safe to even be vulnerable, right? Those are the things that we're looking at in the very, very first question. Technically, we are looking at all the things that contributed to the team vibe and that makes that team a high-performing team. And once we have done that, we do another activity where people will now go down memory lane again and think about the times that were part of a project that things were not running smoothly at all, that things were really, really not working. Now, you want to think about the things that made that environment the way it was, right? The things that were present or the things that were absent, the things that caused the disagreements, the things that caused the bad moods, the things that caused the chaos and the conflict. You don't want to be in that position. And that is why building the ground rules in terms of team charter is very, very important. Based on this, the team will now come together to build their own charter, or what we can call the social contract. Now, I'd like to call it the 10 commandments for the team. However, it's not written on stone, which means sometimes in the future, the team can say, well, we looked at the way we work, we need to update something. Or maybe sometime down the line, another team member joins. They may want to take the team member through that journey and say, wow, this is what we have done together as a team. How about you bring in your ideas or update these, or do you really like it and you want to be part of it? So it's a discussion that it keeps on ongoing. And on this note, I think I will hand over to Clement to take us to the very, very fourth one.
Well, thank you very much, Pete and Yannick. Guess I'm audible enough. So there you go. You collected your requirements. You got your product vision. So the product vision drives the roadmap. This is where you decide on the start and end date. And in this case, it's more or less top-down approach on estimating. So you know how much work that needs to be done. And then at this point is where you decide on the number of iterations or sprints based on the work that needs to be done. And essentially what happens here is you create the time boxes for each of the sprints. And you say, could be 2 weeks or 3 weeks sprints that you're going to come up with. And at this point, this is an example of a roadmap that you can come up with. So you got your planning session for the number of sprints. That will be your iteration 0, that you decide on the work that needs to be done. Remember, in agile project management, we create time boxes that will be able to help us to accelerate delivery of value to the business. So we keep work in progress or workload at minimum, and with no multitasking, because we waste time in there. So this gives us an example of a roadmap where you're looking at mobile applications. So you go to your sprint 0 for planning, what needs to be done, provisioning, mobilization. Then now you come up with your sprints. Now, from the sprints, as we work on the work, we create rhythm. So we call them cadences, or we call them time boxes. And this enables us to be able to keep on track. So then we know that the shared time that we need to have together, so the shared calendar that we need to have together is to do the work. And this would be an example where we're talking about then what times, if it's a daily sprint or if it is stand up, what time does it take place? So we record this one because everyone is required to attend. So there are planning meetings when we are coming up with a new sprint. We sit down together, we determine how long it's going to cost, how long it's going to take, probably how much it's going to cost, and who is going to do what. Because the team members in this case are semi-autonomous, and they are the ones who determine how long and the risks that are involved in it. So as we go through the work, then because of the iterative nature of the agile project management, so we still have to keep on grooming and refining the backlog to make sure that the work that is coming up as we learn from what we have done from retrospectives gets into the pipeline. And this is an example of probably what you may want to say start date and end date of each of the sprints as work is carried out. Okay, so one of the characteristics, like I said, of user stories is they need to have the acronym INVEST. And in this case, so then we do not have to build complexities and reduce coupling. What we need to have is to have INVEST. So the user stories need to be independent. They need to be negotiable. they need to be valuable because we are talking about value that is being accelerated, and the work that we are going to do has got to have direct value to the business. They need to be estimable. They need also to be small, and they need to be testable at the end of the day. And in this case, the team now needs to agree on the DOD. DOD stands for definition of done. So what is that checklist? What is that acceptance criteria that we are going to create to show that the work is ready? And you can have a checklist to show what you are going to measure against, what you are going to test against to bring in now that testability in it. But one of the things also before we go ahead is that we have got definition of ready. So what is that definition of ready? Definition of ready is the other way. So to say that before we go to definition of done, we want to say that the team is ready, the resources are available, the environment is prime, so we can get the work done. So that is definition of ready, which will be a signal that we are ready, we need to move on. So in this case, one of the things that we need to look at is to enhance quality with the definition of done. We need to look at the definition of quality in the product backlog. So when you are coming up with a product backlog, it has got items or those pieces of work that needs to be done for us to be able to say that we have got a product. So at the end of once we are finishing emptying the product backlog and we have got all the releases that are coming from the sprints, then now we'll be able to say that now we have a product that is being delivered. But in this case, the product, because we are talking about minimum business increments from the user stories, so we are delivering value because the customer or the business wants the product sooner than later. So we don't have to wait all the way to the end for us to be able to deliver a completed product. So in this case, I mentioned that you have got your sprint 0. This is where you have created your backlog. So now the planning takes place. You set up the environment, you provision the teams, you know the number of sprints that you are going to have, you know the tools that you are going to have. And recently, when you are looking at agile and lean, then we start looking at continuous deployment and continuous integration. So we need to continuously create an environment where we are deploying and at the same time integrating. And with digital development, then we will probably need tools that will help us to be able to test. We create now those continuous deployment and continuous integration pipelines that we continuously deploy our solutions as we go. We don't have to do manual testing, especially in software development. So this is the takeaway as we conclude. So we've got here, we empathize with the users, we get our user stories together. So from the user stories, we develop the product vision. And from the product vision, we come up with a product backlog, which has got items. And in this case, we prioritize. So the prioritization takes place in the product backlog. Then we determine what is going to be of more benefit or what is going to be of more value to the business. So we bring in there and come up with a roadmap based on priority. And then this is not set on stone. So we keep on reprioritizing and prioritizing every time we get a new requirement, because as we do sprint reviews, the customer and demos, the customer may come up with new requirements, and these new requirements are likely to become items that needs to be added into the product backlog, and then we need to keep on reviewing and improving. So in this case, we ready to go. So we are ready. So we got into iteration 1 here. Think about from the iteration. So we also have, or sprint, we also have iteration backlog. And this is based on the task that needs to be performed to create the features that will give us the value that the users asked for when they talked about the user stories. Then we determine how long is it going to be for each of the iterations? In this case, we have seen we've got an iteration for 3 weeks. So we don't wait until the end of the 3 weeks to say that we are ready to deploy. We've got the daily Scrum stand-ups. That will be something like 10 to 15 minutes, and each team member with key team members that need to attend, everyone, the Scrum Master or the team leader, got the Scrums and the product owner at a bare minimum. Then once we feel that the iteration is ready before we release, then we have to get in there. We do a demo to look at the functionalities, and especially if it was not very clear, then we review. Once we review and we go through now the definition of ready, we check on the acceptance criteria. We are green, then we release. Got a release, and then we go back again to the next iteration. But before we go back again to the next iteration, we have got a retrospective, which we call now agile ceremonies or agile rituals. That will be something like maybe 40 to 60 minutes. The demo will be another 40 minutes. And then now this one is led by the retrospective is led by the the team leader working with the team, what worked well, what didn't work well. And then now this becomes part of lessons learned that now goes into the organizational knowledge management structure. Now, but when we are doing retrospectives, there is possibility that we are going to come up with improvement activities. These improvement activities will go back again into the product backlog, and they become work that needs to be pipelined. And in this case, now we go again to do another reprioritization for us to be able to determine and to assign that work and for the team to be able to perform. We go back again, the same cycle until we have got our product delivered. Okay, I think that's it. So this is basically what I was been talking about. You got a release there. From the release, you have got a retrospective. Then we got improvement activities that will go back again into the product backlog, which needs now to be refined and to be groomed. So then we reprioritize the work based on what we have. Now, one of the things that you realize when we are working on user stories, from every user story, what we need to have, and when you're talking about iterations, we need to have a minimum business increment. So that release now becomes a minimum business increment that is shippable and consumable solution that is delivered into the business. Thank you. Thank you, Yannick. Thank you. Thank you, Pete.
Thank you, Clement. Now, if you guys have some questions, over to you, Anthony, to moderate.
Thank you very much, Yannick. Thank you, Pete. Thank you, Clement, for that session. Ladies and gentlemen, we are now at the Q&A session. Please feel free to unmute yourself and ask questions to the speakers. We initially had someone who had their hand up. Who was that? Martin, you have a question there?
While we are waiting for those questions, just want to quickly say that those steps are quite important so that people can have a well-established process for starting a new project, starting from establishing a very good vision, developing team values, definitely having some very good ground rules like we have explained, creation of the product backlog. That was really very good explanation from Clement. And of course, creation of the rhythm, that's the sprint rhythm, definition of ready, definition of done. Those ones are very quite important. And of course, you want to start off with your project. Now, your question might want to be touching on how you want to practicalize this. How has it worked in the real world scenario? Any one of those points. if there's anything that is going through your mind in terms of how do we apply all these things, I think that would be good. Yannick, myself, and Clement will be glad to answer any of the questions.
Pete, thank you for that. I see Gilbert Shaka from Kigali, Rwanda, is asking, can we have a summary of the main 7 steps?
Yannick, can you go for that?
Yes, I can. So basically, if you look at these 7 steps, so it's you're preparing your team to start to do the work. So how do you prepare your team to start to do the work is to go through these steps. So if you imagine that you have now your team that has been hired, so you have about 10 people in your team, and you have a project sponsor that wants you to build a product. So before you start to go and run and write the code, we need to have a way on how we will be working together. So how does that happen is that you bring your team in a meeting room, in a room somewhere. So it's very important for everyone to feel comfortable. And it's very important for everyone to be able to share what they want to say. So it needs to be a place where we call it is safe. So they can express their feelings. They can tell you exactly what they are scared of or what their weaknesses are, and so that they can work together. So now when you have these teams together in a room, so it's very clear that what are we building? So like Pete said, so how does success look like? So we'll have a website. Is it going to be deployed, or is it going to be deployed in a different type of environment? What are the main core functionality that we need to build? So that's very important. You will very often have the business owner, so the product owner who represent the business with you. So any questions that the team would have should be able to be answered at that time. So this is where there is a difference between the waterfall model and the agile approach. In the waterfall, very often you have like a big document that has already been created by someone several months ago. So when the team would read it, there would be gaps, or they will interpret things in a different way. But in agile, in this situation, you will be working together with a product owner and understand what is the vision, what is the problem that the business is trying to solve. So that's the first step. So this will be clear. So what brings the team together, we spoke about values. It's very important for the team to share the same value. So this is where everyone, so you'll be running a workshop where everyone on a sticky note can write their 3-4 values, and then you aggregate that to select the top 3-4 values that the team would share. So one of the values can be, we want everything that we do, we want to delight the customer. So once we have this list of values, we have a product roadmap, which is, so we have a vision, and then you look at the roadmap. So we know when we need to go to production. We know we need to do 2 release or 3 release. Okay, let's start to break it down into several iterations. And we need to agree about 2-week sprint or 3-week sprint. So once you have that, you can put that map that we've shown before, and you start to look at the ground rules. The ground rules is just a list of things. So we will start work at 9 o'clock, or we will start work at 8:30. So how does the team work together? So the rules. So we will not be late to meetings. So these are some examples of ground rules that the team will agree. And this is not going to be stepping stone. So when we do the retrospective at the end of each sprint, so we can change the ground rules. You can say that's not working, or we need to add another ground rules to it. And how do you document that? You can put it into A3 posters, and you stick it into your development environment where everyone would see. So this is what we call information radiator. Instead of it being on a shared drive that people will not look at, it is printed, it is somewhere that every day the developers will see. So the sprint rhythm, so this is where you agree on when the daily sprint will occur and where it is. and when are we going to do the planning. So why that's important is that so that we have what we call the cadence. So it's consistent. So if you operate in a manner that's not consistent, so you have inefficiencies. So if you have a daily stand-up in different places every time, people start to get confused. People start to become late or they get lost. So having it at the same time, at the same place every day, so start to make it easier for people. So once you have that sprint rhythm mapped out and agreed by the team, so you can start to book all your meetings in advance. So once the meeting is booked in advance, so new meetings will be easier. So you don't have to start to go and reschedule meetings and reshuffle the calendars of all your team members, because very often you've seen we need to do something, we need to get the whole team together and everyone has got different meetings at different time. So you start to have issues to start to get everyone to be in one place to be able to discuss something that's important. So the last thing, so maybe the two last things about the definition of done is that just a checklist. So when a user story needs to go to the planning to be planned, it needs to be ready. Ready, it will be just a checklist so that we don't spend all the 1 or 2 hours that you've allocated to talk about one user story because there are confusion. So we need to have some criteria that during the refinement of a user story, we agree, yes, it's ready so that we can take it to start development. And the definition of done is again the same thing, a list of checklists that you guys can use with a product owner to accept that a user story is complete and that's ready to be put into production. So the last thing will be the sprint zero. Sprint zero is just now that we've got all these ground rules and all the frameworks. So this is what we call the ways of working. So our ways of working, how we are going to work together. Now we start to do our first sprint, which is sprint zero, which is when you create all your backlog. You make sure everyone has access to the tool that you're going to use as your backlog, whether it is DevOps, Microsoft Azure DevOps, or whether it is Jira, and you have all your development workstation ready. You have access to all your code repositories, SharePoint libraries, and everything that you need so that in the next sprint, the developers are ready to start to do the coding. So that's at a high level. So what I tend to do with my team, so when we go through that, we will put all that into a big Word document. So we will call version 1, and then we will print all the values, the vision into A3, and then we will stick it everywhere on the development in the area. So we call it the development environment. So where we will be. And every day they can look at it and you will see people looking at it and thinking about it. So this way it is really visible and people tend to adhere to it. So that's, hope that I've answered that question.
Yeah, that was very good. That was very good. And there's a question from Jacinta as well here, which is around where to start concerning certification. Yep, there are quite a number of certification pathways for project managers. Yannick, myself, and Clement are very strong, project management background. All of us started from the PMP, right? However, we have made that transition into the agile ways of working, which means we enjoy our foundation as project managers, but we are also really enjoying the journey in the agile world. So what I would say is to really give you a good idea of how to make the best of your decisions to go the agile way. You feel free to contact me. I'll be able to guide you on a good pathway to becoming an agile practitioners. I think it would be nice to know your background. It would be nice to know your knowledge in agile currently, because sometimes if you have some basic foundation, you may not need to start from the scratch. If you do not have that at all, you may have to start from PMI ASAP, for instance. You may want to start from DASM. If you have some background, then you may have to go to Discipline, Agile, Scrum, Senior Scrum Master. Yannick and myself in this part of the world are doing some work together in terms of, for example, people that want to go on agile journey that have practical project management background. We have planned sessions for PMI ACP, for instance, and my organization, Pete Lauren Consulting, also do DASM courses, DASSM courses in terms of certification. But beyond that, we have mentoring sessions. We have we have like one-on-one catch-ups where we can support you in any area that you want. Okay, cool. And of course, Anthony keeps sharing some of those free resources. That is one of those things. There are free resources all around that you can capitalize on, you can take advantage on. And of course, based on that, it gives you that foundation into our sneak peek into the agile ways of working.
Yeah, there's also project kickoff that I normally share with people, which is also a PMI kind of bunch certificate that you go for free for 45 minutes. And it helps you to get the practical sessions on how to do it yourself, whether you want to go agile or you want to go traditional. So you can also check on project kickoff that can also help you. And then also looking at, well, I also have this idea that agile is not, well, originally came from IT, but then I've also been using it and I've been discussing with organizations regarding, especially the NGO business that also needs to transform. And I'm looking at it very closely from what they call if you work in the development sector and you are talking about resource-based management. So looking at the whole value stream, not only from disciplined agile at the basic, but also looking at from agile, disciplined agile value stream consulting, all the way from strategy development and coming up with business backlogs for your strategy and defining the MBIs, that will be the minimum business increments, what you will need to see, because the NGO sector is one of the areas that has been left behind. So also helping organizations to transform their mindset and not looking at agile from an agile IT perspective, but also looking at it from a business perspective that will also help organizations to be able to change or to transform their way of working, where you bring in now the agile elements. So that's another area that we also shepherd organizations who want to transform and not really get into the IT sector. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much, Clement. We still have about 30 minutes. If anyone has any questions to the gentleman, feel free to unmute yourself. Yes, Gilbert will be sharing the links as well to the free courses and also to the Agile courses for you to access. Also, if you have any inquiries, any questions that you have, you can always reach out to us at PMIAfrica@pmi.org. And we'll be able to get back to you with all the information that you require. Okay.
Looks
So
like
if
it's
there
a
are
wrap.
no, come again? Yeah, it looks like it's a wrap. No additional questions. I'd like to start by thanking Yannick, Pete, and Clement for this fantastic session. Thank you everyone for attending to tonight's session. It's been quite a great share from the gentlemen and the coaches, experts from our Africa region. Our next session will be end of next month, and we'll be sharing more details in regards to the session. So I'll be sending out an email to you.
Wait, Anthony.
Yes, Clem.
From an African perspective, I am seeing one of our elders here. You may want to recognize him, Ike Wango.
Oh, Ike is here. Hi, Ike. How are you?
Everybody, thanks for the session. I was just here listening in. I was just here listening in quietly. So thank you all, Yannick, Pete, and Clemens, and the PMI Africa team and all those present. Thank you for all you do.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Ike, and thanks for attending and being part of this session. So we've come to the end of our session, and we'd like to thank you all for attending. We'll be sending more information in regards to the upcoming events. Also, we'll share the recording for this session and the presentation slides. For us from the PMI Africa team is thank you and have a great evening. Bye for now.
Thank you, everyone. Have a good one.
Thank you and
Thanks,
bye-bye.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you and goodbye.
Nice.